World Day of Social Justice, and we are participating in a panel discussion on social justice. On behalf of Institute of Harmony and Peace Studies, New Delhi, I wish every one of you a warm welcome and a very good evening. A few things by way of situating the webinar. We are located in different parts of the country, even the world. One is supposed to join from USA. The virtual platform has zeroed down the distance among us, and it's nice being with all of you. All of you have spared your valuable time, have taken the trouble, and I appreciate very much your goodwill and interest, along with your commitment to the cause of promoting harmony and peace in the society. I'm deeply grateful to you for the same as well. All of you are professors and experts in various disciplines, universities, and institutes. This exercise is intended to contribute to the generation of knowledge and opinion making on the given theme. This webinar is live streamed on the YouTube channel of the Institute with the name Institute of Harmony and Peace Studies. What's more, the Institute has a data bank of 30,000 emails across the country and the globe. Several research institutes and universities often take up the insights for their classrooms. I'm sure your valuable insights will reach various circles far and wide. The medium of communication could be English or Hindi. By way of a time limit, I would suggest 5 to 7 minutes would be good enough. Then I believe we could proceed to a second round by way of fine-tuning the topic. I wish to request all of you to kindly stay till the end as well. A few things by way of introducing the theme, social justice. Tomorrow, 20 February, is World Day of Social Justice as per the United Nations. Social justice is a regular problem, old and ever new. It's like a hard nut. Social justice is scheduled to address issues like poverty, discrimination, systemic racism, exclusion, gender inequality, unemployment, violation of human rights, and social protections. The pursuit of social justice is geared towards promoting social development and human dignity. In the words of the former Secretary General of the United Nations, Ban Ki-moon, the gap between the poorest and the wealthiest around the world is wide and growing. This situation is not only between countries, but within them, including many of the most prosperous. Social justice is a major hurdle on the way of global as well as national solidarity. Martin Luther King Jr. says, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Kindly keep yourself muted. Equitable distribution of income and greater access to resources has to be a reality. The next generation has to be cautioned as regards social injustice in view of a happier, safer, and fulfilling life ahead. Attention has to be paid to concerns like dignity of the human being, privacy of the common good, reciprocal rights and responsibilities, the dignity and rights of workers, fundamental options for the poor and the vulnerable, and the like. Discrimination in the disguise of gender, age, race, ethnicity, religion, culture, food habits, dress patterns, or disability is sheer social injustice. In the words of Elie Wiesel, there may be times when we are powerless to prevent injustice, but there must never be a time when we fail to protest. Leigh Bardugo has a typical saying, sometimes the only way to get justice is to take it for yourself. Finally, justice means paying everyone his or her due. People should receive that which they deserve. Treat the other the way you like to be treated is the logic. Justice is ethics. Justice is truth as well. The divine power does not discriminate, but gives a fair deal to everyone. Sunshine and rains are given to the good and the bad alike in an equal measure. The humans have to learn to give everyone a fair deal too. Our society has to be characterized by social justice in view of a human and divine feel all around. A better tomorrow surely is ahead of our country and the society. It cannot be otherwise. That's all I would like to say by way of introduction. And I would like to invite now all of you in turn to present your views and insights on the theme in question. Professor, I would like to request Professor Manisha Tripathi Pandey, Head of the Department of Sociology, Jamia Millia Islamia Central University, New Delhi, to present your views. Professor Manisha Tripathi.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas. This is a very, very complex issue, and congratulations for organizing discussion on the particular theme on this particular day. Social justice is very complex, because when we measure development, it is the non-material indicator of development, social justice. So, as you said, it's giving people their due, it's giving people what they deserve, in other words, equal participation of all groups, upholding of human rights. But why is it needed is the question. It is needed because inequality is the status quo today, every time, everywhere. And there is inequality, which is status quo, of course, but it is also inequality in access to resources, inequality in securing human rights and safety, inequality in freedom from discrimination, be it of caste, be it of class, be it of gender, religion, race. So that is why reducing inequality is definitely both morally right and which is pragmatically necessary. And that is why such debates on such themes become very important. Now, of course, theoretically, if we see, social justice is basically based on the premise that all people are entitled to same basic rights and freedom as everybody else. And it is connected with basic issues of both equality and equity. Now, equality, as we all understand, is something which is implying sameness, which where efforts are given to treat everyone in a similar way. Whereas equity is to ascertain that treatment is fair and just, and how fair the system is. So it is equality in outcome which is very important, which basically means access to same opportunities. So whereas equality, which implies sameness, this implies fairness. Equity implies fairness, and both of them are very, very important when we talk of social justice, because not only equality, inclusiveness, diversity, rights, human rights, and participation of all. And when we talk of social justice issues in India and everywhere, besides the caste and the class discrimination, we have gender equality issues. Say women in politics, education, employment. What is the level? What is the rate? What is the success rate? Minorities, big issue. Elderly, another category where social justice issues are there. Disabled, or there also we have social justice issues. People on the streets, laborers, migrant workers, people say as AIDS victim categories, issues of social justice. When we talk of rights of the child, issues of social justice. When we talk of delay in execution of any law, that is again a social justice problem, because we have to address equity very well. What is the outcome? So that is why it becomes a very, very important theme, where we talk of equality of opportunity, equality of treatment, fairness, where there has to be dignity of difference, as Jonathan Sachs would have said, appreciating differences, giving voice to the minorities, to the marginals, to the, people who are so-called the fourth world, which Manuel Castells had said. So that is why it is very, very important to discuss social issues. So, when we talk of the Indian situation particularly, of course, in India, we have, extreme poverty and hunger, and that inclusive growth does not happen and is not happening. And of course, we have sectors in various government policies which give rise to social inequality and justice, where, like, say, when we talk of education laws, healthcare laws, environment laws, voting laws, labor laws. All these categories, we have issues here. But one must say that India has achieved political justice, but social and economic justice, where we talk of the Indian Constitution as stated in the preamble, it has to secure to its all citizen justice, which encompasses social, political, and economic justice. India has achieved fairly a good amount of political justice, but not social and economic justice, So what is needed? Say, when, not that there are no measures at achieving distributive justice, but there has been reservation for women, protection of girl child. In case of SC, ST, OBC, there are civil rights to prevent atrocities on SCs, STs, minorities, reservation. But the need of the hour is implementation. implementation of course, the promotion of that inclusive society by recognizing that some of the weaker sections, the marginalized, the minorities, the transgenders, it becomes all inclusive, and that is the need of the hour. When we talk of the tribals, there is this need for effective implementation of Forest Rights Act or District Mineral Fund for ensuring welfare, environmental protection of forests, and inclusive development of tribes. Also, see, when we talk of the manual scavengers, the communal tensions which develop over a period of time, Khap panchayats, or say attack on Dalit intellectuals or minorities. They all, all these issues need to be addressed. So when we talk of India particularly, we definitely need a revolution where all stakeholders, be it the government, be it the civil society, be it the NGOs, be it the individuals, they have to perform the duty towards the fulfillment of constitutional ethos, which is ensuring social justice to all citizens. And that is a very, very big challenge. And that challenge needs to be addressed. So with these few lines and sentences, these are my opening thoughts and remarks on social justice. Dr. Thomas, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Manisha, for highlighting a range of issues and concerns around the problem of social injustice. You rightly said, the fairness has to be at the center of our concern, and it is not equality in all details, but equality in outcome would give a better effect to our concerns. And the constitutional ethos are to be, are to be our basis in as we conduct ourselves. And an all-inclusive approach which will take care of the weaker sections has to be a main focus. And India, while having a lot of political justice, the economic and the social justice, we are far behind, needless to say that. And you have highlighted all these, the great insights. Thank you so much, Professor Manisha, for your great insights. Now, I would like to request Professor Dhananjay Dheeraj, is the head of the Department of Education, JJ College, Jhumri Telaiya, Vinoba Bhave University, Hazaribagh, Jharkhand. Professor Dhananjay Dheeraj.
Thank you so much. And there is a little change in the address. Currently, I'm working as head of the Department of Education, Gaya College, Gaya, under Magad University, Bodh Gaya.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Yeah, I will correct that.
Problem, no issue. Wonderful good evening to one and all, especially my regards to Dr. M.D. Thomas, Director, Institute of Harmony and Peace Studies, and his team. Regards to Dr. Manish also. We were just listening to her in a very vibrant tone, discussing and raising the issues of social justice. Very well spoken. Now, just only few additions are there only. Now, the term social justice itself is a very, very vast term. The society and justice, and now social justice. When we say society, it is just being educationist as we define classroom, that classroom is a heterogeneous mixture of intellectuals, meaning thereby the students, they are from different family backgrounds, they are from different parental and maternal background, so they are carrying individual differences. So the classroom is a heterogeneous mixture. Similarly, the society is also not having homogeneity. It's also having people from heterogeneous background. This different background may be due to several factors. But the fact is that that India is having still unity in diversity, the concept of unity in diversity. Now, when the society is having people from different backgrounds, these backgrounds may be from their religious perspectives, from their regional perspectives, from the perspectives of race, and several other issues or several other factors. But the fact is that, as just we discussed, that as per the Constitution and the preamble of the Constitution, everybody has been given equal rights. Meaning thereby, when we talk of the term social justice, it refers to some basic rights and freedom to every citizen who lives in the country. Or better if we say who lives in the society also, when we talk of social justice. The basic rights and freedom to everybody. Now, when somebody is deprived of these freedom and rights, then the issue of social justice arises. I hope I'm clear in my objectives while discussing in English. If any suggestion or any of us wish to have it in bilingual mode also, I can come to do that so that it could be palatable to everybody. Well, now the social justice is connected with the issues of equality and equality, well discussed by Dr. Manisha. Now moving forward, exactly it is giving people what is due to them or what is expected to them in the sense everybody is having that societal expectation, as everybody is having the same rights and same status of freedom or same degree of freedom, then he must be given that. Equal participation of all groups. Now, when we say equal participation of all groups, then equal participation of all groups in all societal activities, in all national activities, means there should be no deprivation on any basis, which is the root cause of social justice. Meaning thereby, there is some social injustice on the basis of some factors, only then the issue of social justice comes. Now, what could be those parameters or what are those issues from where there is some social injustice? You know, it is these things are not just bound with the boundaries of the country, I mean India. Rather, these are global issues. You think of the people like, very rightly Father mentioned, Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, and several other dignitaries that did a lot and fought for social justice. Even in our country too, if you take the things, even from those old ancient period and all, there was really a fight for social justice. Several sect of the people, several category of the people, they were, even being in one religion, were deprived of visiting the temples. Now, it was a great example of social injustice. Even it challenged the humanity and ethos of the intellectual people of that era. Even they were not able to enjoy the similar status or rights on several social gatherings or social occasions. Mahatma Gandhi, you know, there are several other stalwarts, those who fought in the country for social justice. Later on, Baba Sahib Bhimrao Ambedkar, you know, who is known as one of the famous architects of the Indian constitutions, wrote a lot, faced a lot, and provided a lot in the form of solution to the people who are from deprived section of the society, downtrodden people, those who were being deprived of their rights in many terms. And finally, the root reason of bringing social justice is we should create awareness. Awareness among the students, awareness among the people who are literate, awareness among the people who are illiterate. We should aware them about what are their fundamental rights and what are their fundamental duties. What basic rights the Constitution has provided to them, and nobody can exploit them or make them deprived of those rights. So education will be a master tool, and education will be the best technique in order to enlighten the people towards their social justice. Many movements, even in the country also and abroad also, were carried out for social justice. Now, in the current perspectives, in the present days, there are several issues of social justice also. Even in some of the developed countries also, there are cases of racism. Social justice is being denied on the basis of that. So, racial groups or some groups on the basis of the sects or religions, it should not be given priority on any of the issues or any of the societal activities, meaning thereby there should be equal promotion of all groups, equal promotion of all category of the people who are living in the country, who are living in the society. Now, justice and social justice. Let me throw a bit light on just a few seconds more further. When we talk of justice and when we talk of social justice, now the boundary of the justice is, restricted. But social justice, it is boundless. It is not related to your several laws of jurisdiction. Rather, social justice is having limitless, it is boundless. Everybody is bound to obey social justice. When we just talk of justice, it takes a lot of time. Justice delayed is justice denied. But social justice is such kind of thing which is justice on the spot, justice within no time, justice with no litigations, justice with no more arguments, justice with no more witnesses. So, with the help of social justice, we can put our nation from the category of developing nation into a developed nation. Missiles will not define us for being a developed nation unless and until we are having social justice in our country, unless and until we are having equality for everybody in our country. And hardly matters whether they are from any region or any religion or caste, creed, color, or sex. And on the eve of this Social Justice Day, on the grand evening of this Social Justice Day, my best wishes are for every citizen of the country to have social justice, to promote social justice, be a part of the social justice. Never wait for somebody to come and provide you the social justice. Let us be part of this. Let us take the initiative for this. Let us be Mandela. Let us be Abraham Lincoln. Very recently, we celebrated Sant Raidas Jayanti in the country. He was from a very downtrodden society, but he was a scholar, and he proved himself that how social justice can be achieved on the basis of education. Because while his discussions, while his discourses, he argued with the so-called scholars of that time or that era, but they could not defend Sant Raidas. He was also one of the great reformers and one of the most prominent figures in order to fight social justice in the country. So in light of that, there are a few more speakers are also there, and hope we will keep connected and different issues will be discussed in the days to come. Wish you all the best. Wish you all the best for social justice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Dhananjay Dheeraj. You very much based yourself on the heterogeneous character of our society, and diversity is very clear, but unity is the destination where we have to go to, and that requires the same degree of freedom everyone should enjoy, and highlighting the great people, Ambedkar, Nelson Mandela, and the like. You emphasize that initiative has to be taken to ensure justice for ourselves and for others. So that social justice is boundless, and it has no boundaries. And when everyone gets justice, the social justice is ensured. And that day is maybe very far, but we have to travel towards that day. And thank you so much, sir, for your great insights in this line. Now I would like to invite Professor Amrit Kaur Basra, who is Deputy Dean, Foreign Students Registry, Delhi University, New Delhi. Professor Amrit Kaur Basra.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas. It's been a great privilege to be part of your panel discussion, and I'm very lucky to be part of your several such discussions, because as a teacher, it gives me a great opportunity to learn. And I think the basic thing is that when we are part of global situation, society, and we are a global village, so context becomes very much important to us. And you very well specified the agenda issue pertaining to social justice. This is something which must be addressed on day-to-day basis. We have knowledge with us. We are all issues connected with it have been spelled out. But what I feel is that at the time when discrimination is practiced on day-to-day basis, and many discriminatory practices are being treated as a given, or rather which should never be questioned. So it becomes prime duty of those who are responsible for dissemination of you can say knowledge to learner, though it may sound to a very heavy kind of statement, but I'm talking about my own subjectivity as a teacher. I'm Amrit Kaur Basra, teach history in Delhi College of Arts and Commerce. So what I feel that now when we are seeing that how the whole discourse of history or discipline of history has changed from classes to masses, from men to women, from political to cultural issues. So one basic thing which we must appreciate or understand is the fact that pointing out of issues and accepting that there is discrimination all around us will not help. What must be done, that we must be taking clue from the everyday experiences of our people who are all around us. And in our case, these are our students. I'm very lucky being part of Delhi University. We experience whole of India in our classroom itself. So I feel that and this is what I can say, that University of Delhi has very strong policy, which is no gender discrimination, beliefs and practices social equity, and we ensure that there should be total inclusiveness. So given that, which means that educational spaces should be kind of, you can say, equal, welcoming to everyone, and that needs to be ensured. Having said it, they're saying that they're open to everyone and everyone is equal is not sufficient. We must be aware about the kind of issues or unsaid words. Even silence speaks for itself. So the sensitivity is required. Love thy neighbor becomes very important. So we must be knowing what is happening around us. And I feel that as a student of who researcher on communalism in colonial and present day India and identity formation and being Sikh, I know that kind of discrimination can be institutionalized. It can be on day-to-day basis also. So in that sense, as a community, we must strengthen ourselves. We must reach out to itself so that when we are talking about deliverance of justice, our constitution has given has given it. The whole concept of social justice is being there, but then it is entwined with rights and responsibilities both. So how we need to practice is, so learning and unlearning becomes very much important. And I feel that if we can encourage and ensure that we have enabling ambience, in that case, systems of dissemination, press in particular, if it is neutral, if we can stand for the rights of others and ensure that through community service, starting from an individual itself, and ensuring that when we are in position of responsibility as part of a state, then we should be in position, or we must deliver social justice. So equity needs to be ensured, and that can be done. And here I would like to say that remembering Jyotirao Phule, who went on to reject the entire social structures based on caste system. So such responses and the changes which have been initiated by different religion, Guru Nanak said, "Manas ki jat sab ek hi pehchan." When all are equal, caste and jati is not practiced, and those who work with hands and share and do their earning in right teacher's way, then automatically some kind of equity can be ensured. So I think it's high time all religion preach it. We need to do away with all the discriminatory practice. And a word of caution, no doubt discrimination is there, no doubt it's been happening for hundreds of years, but wherever it has been curved or has been kind of injustice, has been kind of, you could say, some kind of positive achievement has been made, that should be alluded to. So we should not be always in mode of criticizing or be in position to say that, oh, everything is going wrong. So we should not be shirking our responsibilities. And at the same time, those who were pioneers in the past, those who are still doing good to society, they must be applauded too. So your institution, in that sense, becomes very much crucial, because what I feel, that deliberation, dissemination, and the way you said that you've done so many thousands of seminars, so they really help us to understand that a change is possible and social justice can be delivered, not on starting from local to global situations. So I'll stop here.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Amrit Kaur. You really started with the discrimination that is going on in our society in a very unquestioned way. Well, and highlighted the necessity of being inclusive. And another thing which you stressed very much was, the need of sensitivity. Unfortunately, a lot of people do not know what's happening around them, and they have lost their sensitivity. They are just worried about themselves. So, in that context, that insight was very much, valid by way of delivering social justice, highlighting Nanak, Mahatma Phule, and the like. How they fought against injustice. You presented a lot of insights in this line. Thank you very much, Professor Anup Bordasla. Now, I would like to invite Professor Jeevan Kumar, former Professor, Department of Political Science, Bangalore University, Bengaluru, Karnataka. Professor Jeevan Kumar.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Thomas. It's a great pleasure to be in your midst this evening. We have met a long time ago when I was in Bangalore University. I recall the occasion when you had come across and the event that we organized for you. I was delighted to hear from you and I've been following the work that your institute is doing. Very commendable work, I must say, because these are very troubled times, and it's important that institutes and led by very, very progressive people like you have taken the lead to organize a series of events. This is a very appropriate occasion when we are meeting here on the eve of the World Day for Social Justice. And after hearing from you and being asked to serve on a distinguished panel, I was just organizing my thoughts and wondering which dimension of social justice I should look at. And then it struck me that if it's the eve of the World Day of Social Justice, which has been institutionalized by the United Nations, I thought, let me take a quick look at what the UN has been doing in order to spread awareness, at least on one particular day in a year, on a theme that the United Nations identifies practically every year. So I was pleasantly surprised to find that the theme for 2022 has been identified as achieving social justice through formal employment. I was happy to look at this particular theme because informal work, informal sector, informal employment has been one of my concerns. A paper that I taught at Bangalore University in the Department of Political Science was public management. And then when I was teaching public management and we looked at concepts like new public management, which actually, if you ask me, brought in this whole concept of informal work and informal labor, because new public management said that the state cannot afford to give employment to everybody. The private sector has to play a role. And the moment the state began to look to other sectors to relieve itself of the responsibility of affording, quote unquote, full employment, we found the private sector resorting to a series of tactics to avoid giving, quote unquote, formal employment. And the new neoliberal paradigm, which is currently with us, is helping the private sector through very strange concepts like new public management, NPM, in order to help them avoid giving dignity of labor to its workers. So I'll spend a few minutes in looking at this whole issue of how social justice can be achieved through formal employment. I'll begin by reminding ourselves about the role that the ILO, International Labour Organization, has been doing in this regard. And I'll begin by quoting the ILO Director General's message for the World Day of Social Justice 2022. The current ILO Director General is Guy Ryder, and this is what he has to say. It's important that we remind ourselves of his message on the eve of the World Day for Social Justice. Guy Ryder says, the international community has a rare chance that must not be missed to shape a recovery from COVID-19 that delivers social justice for people and protects the planet that we all depend upon. Guy Ryder is reminding us that the time is right. He says it's hard to think of a time when the demand for social justice has been clearer or greater. His message begins by referring to COVID-19 crisis, which he says has exacerbated inequalities both within and between countries. The ILO refers to this as the Great Divergence. Can we call ourselves equal? Can we say we're all together in a common crisis? Look at how COVID-19 has pointed out and has exacerbated the inequalities, which ILO describes as the Great Divergence. What is the ILO specifically referring to? It says economic and social divisions have actually increased. The ILO is telling us that those who were disadvantaged before the pandemic have been worse affected. It refers to youth, women, informal and migrant workers, small businesses. All around us, we have been seeing these people getting into, already in extremely vulnerable situations, getting into more and more vulnerable situations. Is all of this inevitable? The ILO says, no, sir, it is not. This depends whether the divergence remains or we're able to heal or mend or bridge this divergence, he says, it depends on the choices we make, on the decisions we make. The 2022 World Day of Social Justice comes at a point of inflection. As policymakers are shaping our recovery from the pandemic, their choices will set the direction of change. And by choosing the right measures, we can shape the recovery the way we want. And therefore, I think it is clear that we have to join hands with the policymakers, because we need to focus on the most vulnerable sections of people, the informal workers, people on the streets, the street vendors. There are a whole lot of people we see around us who are simply struggling to recover from the pandemic. How do we ensure that social justice reaches all of them? The focus must be on the informal economy, because statistics are telling us that 60% of the world's workers are engaged in this informal economy. 60%, which means 40% people are in the formal economy, and there is some security for the 40% workers. But if more than 50%, 60% of the workers are in the informal economy, and they are living precarious lives, their families to protect, their incomes must be secure, they must be given certain benefits which the other 40% are getting. How can this be done? At least 3 or 4 policy measures could be suggested. It's up to the state and the private sector to ensure that universal social protection can be given to all those in the informal sector. How can workers' protection along with the enterprise's sustainability be ensured? Because a small study that some of my students did in the garment industries in and around Bangalore, when they interviewed the management, management said our incomes have dropped so much, we're not able to pay the salaries that we used to pay. Somehow we're managing to survive. A point will come when we will have to get rid of people who are not as essential and so on. So the whole question that the employers are raising, the enterprises are raising, is about the sustainability. So can both these things be done simultaneously when the world is recovering from the pandemic, to ensure that the sustainability of enterprises can be protected, simultaneously the protection of workers? This is another priority that I think we must engage our attention upon. The ILO frequently has been speaking about providing decent jobs. So the ILO distinguishes between indecent employment and decent employment. So indecent within quotes, of course, we're not referring to the bad kind of jobs. We're not referring to a kind of jobs which immediately come to mind. Indecent jobs is when people don't have job security. Indecent jobs, indecent employment is when people are not given the basic minimum rights that workers are expected to employ. So how can this be promoted simultaneously with ensuring economic growth? So the UN is telling us that we require a just transition into an economy. The whole matter has been is also engaging the attention of the United Nations. The UN Sustainable Development Goals also keeps also as a reference to this. So I think if we bring in the international dimension into our discussion this evening and look at one other vulnerable section of society, those who are engaged in the informal economy, if you understand the number of people, the percentage of people who are in it, and if you're able to understand on this occasion their extreme vulnerability, I think it becomes important for us to also include them in our discussion and figure out ways and means by which we can wipe the tear from their eye also. These are my initial comments, Dr. Thomas, and perhaps we can take this forward a little later. Thank you once again for the opportunity.
Thank you, Professor Jeevan Kumar. Thank you very much for the personal note you added in the beginning. And it is nice to be in touch with you after quite some time. And you rightly focused your discussion on the informal economy. The majority, 60%, the vulnerable sections, the weaker sections, etc., the workers and the less fortunate ones, the unfortunate ones, and around ILO and around the United Nations concern, the Sustainable Development Goals and the like, and how to make the society sustainable with an international outlook, placing the attention on the unfortunate sections connected to the COVID situation. From the lessons the COVID has taught the world, taking lessons from that and how we need to move towards the strengthening the informal economic area, the vulnerable and the weakest. That is a great insight, sir. So thank you very much for that insight. Now, I would like to invite Professor René Raute, former professor, United Theological College, Bangalore, currently in Aizawl, Minnesota. Professor René Raute.
Greetings to you all from Mizoram. And I would like to bring some concern about solidarity aspect of social justice, particularly focusing on Myanmar refugee at this stage, because it has been already a year now that our neighboring country, Myanmar, is forcefully ruled by the military. As a result, there are lakhs and lakhs of people fleeing away from their country for safety. So I visited the refugee camp in Mizoram, one district called Lunglei, and I visited only 2 camps, even in that Lunglei, for a long week time. So in this event of social justice, I would like to spend a little more time on how do we engage? How do we define social justice? Is it by definition, or is it by noun, or is it something else, either adjective or verb? How do we engage with social justice? I think that is one of the main important areas. So we all know that more than 25,000 Chin communities, Chin refugees are landed in Mizoram. Our government, central government, is not willing to accept them. Somehow, because of that ethnic affinity, they managed to cross over the boundary, international boundary, and come to Mizoram state. I'm only talking about Mizoram. Some are landed in Manipur as well. So whether they like it or not, government may say yes or no. Sometimes they say that deport them back. Yeah, but the community of Mizoram people say that once they come to cross the boundary, we cannot send them back. Otherwise, it will be like sending them back for killing and dying, because their villages are burned down, houses are burned down. Some villages are burned down at least 6 times. We know that the cruelty, the behavior of military, the bomb dropping in a villages, small villages, interior villages, you cannot expect that the community who are living in that village will respond back. So I don't want to emphasize so much about the military aggression, but I just want to emphasize more on the solidarity hands that everybody can extend. It is unthinkable situation. Just, I want to give you an example, is that brushing a teeth with toothpaste and toothbrush is a dream. Washing a face with soap is a dream. Having a food with chili is also a dream, because most of the food are rice, dal, and salt. Occasionally, they may get aloo, potato. Occasionally, they may get some vegetables. But for now, that is the reality. The Mizoram government has no money to take care of them. Actually, the community through the NGOs are taking such a great care. At least they survive. At least they live. They continue to live. So those are the reality. Where is the question of social justice in our neighborhood? Of course, this has much more deeper connection as well when it comes to the government of Myanmar and our neighborhood. So much to tell, but my only concern is that humanitarian ground, how can we extend a solidarity hands to the refugees? In reality, refugees are very lucky, at least as far as I can see, who are coming and crossing the boundary lines in Mizoram, because they have a place to sleep, they have a food to eat. But I'm more concerned about people who are remain in Myanmar, who could not run away from their villages, though their villages are bombed and burned down, but still they cannot go far. I'm very worried. International communities have not reached that far, especially the Chin area, that is bordering area to Mizoram area. It's all hilly area, very, very hilly. So, but international help cannot reach, but military can reach and drop a bomb. So I think it's already 1 year now. It's important for us to engage more in this aspect of life-saving and life-giving activities, which I find it as in this occasion of social justice, survival of life is social justice issue. Let us all extend our solidarity hands. Actually, I left Bangalore only last May. Many people don't know much about in Bangalore or South India the real situation of Myanmar when the human population has been targeted now. How could the military target a community people? Let them target forces, whatever forces they name it. But why do they target the community? It has been going on more than a year. And many of our Indian population don't know much. And I think that we should really do something about it. Yeah. Human Rights and Law Network in Delhi are very active in engaging. So they also debated us and many others to assess the real situation. Actually, the Indian government is not accepting them as refugees. So also Rohingya refugees. So much work to be done. If you look at the several years of how Indian government, central government has not signed to the human rights commitment. Where are we now? Any other issues may come, when it comes to citizenship issue, so controversial. It's so controversial. It was so racist. It was so casteist. But still then, we don't have much progress in spite of our protests. The protest was carried on in all areas. I myself participated in many occasions protesting the citizenship law. We after 1 year, after 2 years now, where do we reach? Not much. So then another issue will come. It may be in the border of Tamil Nadu or in the border of Kashmir or wherever. Now it is in Northeast. Until and unless we, the civil society, engage much more so in these relations, especially people who are living in big cities like Delhi and all, we can participate much more than that. We cannot have any even temporary ID card that will give a provision of ration or health, medical, or whatever provisions, including transport. See, teen refugees, actually, they would like to come to Delhi and then reported to UNHR for whatever card they are expecting, but they are held back. They are arrested on the way because they don't have ID card. Mizoram government is not giving any ID. So everybody experienced that you cannot travel to anywhere by any mode of transport without ID, without Aadhaar card or voter's ID. So they were arrested when they have no money even to reach Delhi, but still they are arrested. Some of them are arrested like 2 weeks, 1 month, 3 months. Like in Guwahati, Guwahati is a place where most of the people are arrested. So we don't have any proper community in Guwahati to help them out. So our networking is very important. How do we help one another? Yeah, especially in times of crisis like this. So thank you very much for listening. And this is very heartbreaking situation. And I would like to share with you in a larger audience like this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Rene. You took the discussion into a very realistic, practical area, the grassroots level, what is happening in the ground. Well, what is happening especially in the Mizoram context, also Myanmar. Well, what is happening in one area, it affects and it should affect other areas as well. It's a matter of concern. So, well, the realistic situation you highlighted, how do we engage with social justice, not just with ideas, but in the practical situation among the people, how people struggle. So there is a need of protesting against injustice, networking with the civil society, and thus helping one another, especially in moments of crisis. That was a big appeal which you made, and very valid in the context of the discussion about social justice. Thank you very much for the few concerns you presented. Now I would like to request Professor Aslam Khan, who is Professor of Department of Gandhian and Peace Studies, Mahatma Gandhi Central University, Motihari, Bihar. Professor Aslam Khan.
Thank you very much. It is my proud privilege to speak in the Galaxy of Intellectuals, and I am highly thankful to Dr. M.D. Thomas, Institute of Peace and Harmony, for giving me the opportunity. Since my previous speakers have covered all the areas, but I will speak now that what kind of the institutional mechanisms are there. Since I am going to speak here on the World Day of the Social Justice by United Nations, so I must quote here Aristotle. Aristotle, who is the main author of the conception of justice, he says that, I quote, "Injustice arises when equals are treated unequally, and also when unequals are treated equally. So when we see United Nations itself, then we see lot of inequality in the United Nations. We have seen in the COVID period. So these institutions or these ideas, if we are going back to the history of the social justice, then start from the Greek political philosophy, start from the Socrates. He was questioning what is justice. Then again come to Plato, then come to the Aristotle, then the travel goes on. Then it comes to the utilitarian philosophy from Bentham Mill and all. Then come to the latest level, Amartya Sen also questioned what kind of the equality that we are talking about. So if we take this whole discourse, then there is a big question mark on institutions. Institutions were created, for instance, take the example of the United Nations, and you just recently you see the scenario of the COVID. There was allegation on China that COVID was spread from China by United States of America and their Western allies. But on the other hand, China was denying, and the situation was such that it couldn't discuss initially in the Security Council or the United Nations. So this is the present status, and you see the Western world, for instance, where we borrowed this idea, whole idea of the social justice, because their state come into existence against the religion. But when we see the third world, when we adopted those kind of the ideas right from the industrial revolutions, because this whole discourse is having a corporate background, when we are having the corporate interest, and when we are employing those ideas to the societies or those system to the societies, then there are something that is that need to be addressed, but it couldn't address because either you see the Western democracies, either you see the democracies in the third world. These are the other forces who are controlling the affairs of the states or the society. So when we see this whole COVID management, then we see the vaccine issue of the vaccine nationalism, for instance. We see the vaccine equity issue that these developed powers, they stored this vaccine doses for themselves, and the countries of the third world or the poor countries, they suffered a lot. Even if you see the data or if you see the statistics, then you see that what kind of the inequality is there. Even the 10-20% vaccination is not done in these poor countries, but on the other hand, you can see the data of the developed nations. So when we are talking society as a whole, world as a society, then since we are living in a globalized world, then we are seeing the reflections of those globalized world in a very negative manners. Either you see the role of the WHO, or all the multilateral institutions that we are seeing in the present time, they are having a strong cases of inequality there. And there is a huge inequality in those particular institutions. When those institutions, either you take the cases of the unilateral aggressions, for instance, in the past, that this unilateral aggression against Iraq, then you see the human, because this very much concept is connected with the human rights. Let me take some examples of the human rights. When some nations are doing carpet bombing on some poor nations, or without any evidence, or out of their great power posture, then you see the suffering of the human beings, of the women, children, animals, or the other beings, or the environmental degradation. So these all aspects are being ignored or because overlooked, because third world or the other countries, the inequality prevails that the other nations have no voice. So this is the one issue. And then when we talk of, for example, issues of racism, we can see the racism in Western world. Still, there is a movement like Black Lives Matters there. So this whole concept of social justice, it is not being fitted in the institutions or the institutional mechanism. They are having a very utopian kind of, that policies or structure. But when we see the situation on the ground situation is entirely different. Take the case of populism, for instance, in the modern time. So the kind of the authoritarian discourse that is a great threat to the discourse or the system of liberal democracy. And this popular sovereignty is trumping this whole discourse of liberal democracy. We have seen Trump, how the white racist people, they support it. And we can take this case to India also, that how this one community is treated as a, like that we have seen the examples in recent elections, or we have seen some movements like CAA movements, farmer movements. Then we see the divisions also there, that this is the policy for the poor farmers, this is the policy, you are the big farmer. Then when we take this case of CAA, then there is a exclusion of one community from that particular. So these kind of the things, that when we are talking of the equality, when we are talking of the equity, then when such kind of the cases in the world's oldest democracy, world's largest democracy, then this is the serious question. Either there is a problem of implementation, either is a problem of structure, either it is a problem of, that how people are taking this whole institutions and this whole discourses. So now when we also can, since I connected it with the human rights, then the issue of the minorities, for example, that I take the example of Indian constitutions, that when the constitution was framing, then our great Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, who was very much inspired with the idea of Bourbon's justice, that which that they says that states has always evolved ideas of equality and proportion of the compensation. So this idea later on, he was also very much influenced with the utilitarian philosophy, for instance. And Ambedkar concept of social justice means that a mode of life, that is. It is every man is right place in the society. When every man is not getting a right place, then there's a problem of that in the system. For example, if we see the judiciary, for instance, in judiciary there is a different laws for the different treatment. I must not say law. My apologies. That there is a different treatment with the rich and different treatment with the poor. They cannot finish their case even in the 20 years. But the rich people, they manage their cases. You take the example, for example, take the example of Salman Khan, for instance, that it looks like the deer committed suicide. He was not killed. So this was the money power. And a lot of cases we have seen the money power, but when the cases come to the poor, then there is a different story. Then after 20 years, after 17 years, we are saying that person was not guilty. And there is no accountability. So this kind of the justice system is in the question. We have a very good justice system. Everybody is having right to defend himself or herself. But what is the functionary of the justice? I am questioning here the functionary of the judicial system. So one case is there. Then you see if you see the whole discourse here in terms of the majority and the minority. For example, take the minority issues here. In the 21st century, that when people are talking of the development, when people are talking of the prosperity, our nation, they are very much involved in their old cultural roots, that everybody was something else, then all should come like they are. But this whole discourse tells us that we should respect each and everybody's right to worship or whatever the faith they want to profess. So these discourses, actually, they are contradictory. But you see in the backdrop that how this corporate sector is growing, that some corporate houses, how their incomes are double, tripled, or even 10 times. They have grown even during the COVID. So these are the serious questions about the institutions, their efficacy, their functions. So by all this, I think this whole discourse will continue. I will stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Aslam Khan. You started with Aristotle, how equals are treated unequally, started with that. And then you refer to the corporate sector, which is swelling even in the abject times of Corona and COVID, and the irony of justice, different levels or different measures of justice to rich and poor, even in the court, even in the legal system. It's a big irony. One who has to provide justice also is carried away by purely worldly norms. So that is very much. Thank you, sir, very much for your great insights. It is thought-provoking. And now I would invite Professor Namrata Kothari, who is Professor of Department of Political Science, South Kolkata Girls College. Professor Namrata Kothari. Kindly unmute yourself. Professor Namrata, are you here? Professor Namrata, are you here? I think there is some connection problem. Is Nilesh Anand?
He is my research scholar. Actually, I told him to join and listen this whole discourse.
Okay. Professor Namrata Kothari is not here. Okay. I would like to know who is Ghazala Tabasum. Hello.
She is also my research scholar, sir.
Research scholar.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Would they like to make a point? Well, a few persons who were supposed to be here have not joined for their own reasons. And Professor Namrata Kothari seems to be absent. We have two research scholars, no? Would they like to join and add something? Nilesh Anand, Ghazala Tabasum.
Nilesh, would you like to make any comment or any?
Yeah, I think they are in the. Yeah. Now we have. Since a few other persons, professors who were supposed to be here, couldn't be here, so it doesn't matter. We have a few minutes now, a little fine-tuning the topic. From among the insights that came up, well, what's a take away from this this evening? The United Nations is celebrating World Day of Social Justice to remind the world, all the countries, all the citizens, that we need to be fair and just. Little more, if not 100%, little more. Now, we see from diverse examples that in many respects the world seems to go behind. Like the harvest, the fence eating up the harvest. Even the legal system is carried away by, the rich, the corporate sector, the powerful. The political sector seems to support the corporate sector. Both support each other. Well, justice is being carried away. And what's one thing? The theory of justice, social justice is one thing. The realistic practical situations in different areas, it will be Mizoram or Myanmar or India or anywhere, that is still different. Now, this is a hard nut, as I said in the beginning. We have a long way to go. All the same, in the given situation, from among basing on the great insights that came up this evening, little fine tuning, yes, by way of a takeaway from this webinar. Maybe a minute each, I think a minute or two each, you could uh, come up. Before we conclude, who would like to, you may show your hands. Professor Jeevat Kumar.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Thomas.
Yeah.
It's important. You've taken the trouble to organize a webinar of this particular kind on the eve of a very important day. The theme is very important. So for us at the end of this event to tell ourselves, here is the takeaway from the time that one has invested in a program of this particular kind. So Professor Thomas, if you were to ask me what my takeaway is, I would say listening to a variety of ideas, all revolving around social justice. That's very important on this occasion to reflect upon. Social justice, as you said at the beginning, is a huge area. It involves so many dimensions, so many sectors. And I think each one of us, without actually checking with each other, have all brought in various dimensions based upon our own concerns on why on an occasion like this, we need to reinvest our energies, reinvest our attention on promotion of social justice. I think Dr. Aslam Khan put it very well when he quoted, was it Dr. Aslam Khan quoted Aristotle, who said, social justice is when equals are treated unequally and unequals are treated equally. I think that's a good takeaway for me on this particular occasion. The other one is to remind ourselves that in our own little ways, we can do something to promote social justice. I brought in the huge, what shall I say, the problem that people in the informal sector is facing. I think in our own little ways, if we can do something to ameliorate the problems that they are facing. We have street vendors day in and day out. They're using microphones now in Bangalore and trying to get people to patronize them. Can we do something to patronize them? Can we do something to make their lives better? I think on this occasion, thanks to Dr. Thomas and the Institute of Harmony and Peace Studies, perhaps we can rededicate ourselves in our own little ways, wherever we are, to promote social justice in and around ourselves. Thank you, Dr. Thomas.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Professor Devan. You furthered your point. Thank you very much. Professor Rene, would you like to add anything?
Yes. Actually, it's already 6:30, so I really have to cook.
Okay.
I'm a homemaker.
That is the first concern of social justice.
Yeah, I miss South Indian food. So dosa, idli. Yeah.
Okay.
But here I have to cook something else. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that we have such a wonderful time. At least bringing the concern has been very, very important. So from now onwards, how do we carry on? Yeah, because I realized that because since I am a theologian engaged in theological education and training pastors, and now I'm retired. With all this religious, religious background in my mind, particularly Christianity, what comes to my mind is that any religion, I don't really see much of religion because the differences, if you focus on the differences, yes, certainly you can identify many differences are there, but we also have to look at the commonalities as well, because everybody, all of us, I would say, believe in God, I would say, yeah, or something that holds on to our life is always faith. So that is an integrating factor. Whatever discussion we will talk about human rights, maybe justice, social justice issue, or any other aspect of it, it's a humanity that speaks louder than anything else. Yeah, I live in Bangalore for 30 years, and then as a professor for 27 years, and as a student for 3 years. And I find that Bangalore city is really the longest place I ever lived in my life is Bangalore. Otherwise, I have been in different places, study or work or something related to. So it is such a diverse and rich experience for me. And we have only one language, the common language, that is life-giving and life-affirming activities. Otherwise, what else? What language? So therefore, life-affirming activities is the new language for justice, particularly social justice. So without that, we cannot do anything, because Bangalore is like a paradise for me, because NGO activities are very, very strong. And then people in solidarity are amazing. During that COVID time, and we distributed more than 2 lakhs kgs of rice. I don't know from where it came. I know from where it came, but I don't know how it came. It is unthinkable. So people are so committed to. So now I am back to Mizoram and start alive after retirement, start alive. Reconnecting with people is very difficult because they have so much of other engagement, religious engagement in particular. And there is lesser social engagement. Yeah, so I'm still learning a new thing. But this forum is important that we express our concern, nationwide concern, national concern, regional concern, ethnicity concern, small, big, whatever concern, international and local concern. And let us be in solidarity with one another. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Professor Amrit Kaur, would you like to add anything?
Sir, I would also share the same sentiments. We need to be not only aware about what social justice is all about, we need to practice it. We should also become very conscious so that if I am happy and well-fed, so should be my neighbor. So from local to global, as I've been saying, that it is achievable. The very fact that we are aware about it, and we know what we are doing when we are doing wrong. So it's a time to go in for the path of self-correctiveness. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, thank you. Professor Aslam Khan, anything more?
Yes, sir. Since I have highlighted the very much prominent issues pertaining to the global level to the domestic level, but I must say here, the state should uphold the dignity of the individual. This is the basic question that in the third world society, the people are facing. So a state must uphold the dignity of the human beings and all kind of the mechanism related to the democratic values and their participation in the democracy. Because when we are seeing the participation of the people in the democracy, it is on the divisive lines. For example, we are seeing a very micro level of, that bifurcation of caste there, that this is Rajbhar, this is Yadav, this is something like that. But people as a whole, that whenever in a liberal democracy, we are not concerned about our own issues, that there is a debate. On the one hand, we are talking of development. For instance, in India, take the contemporary example of India. We are talking of development on the one hand, but when people are questioning development, all the things suddenly change, and it comes to the religion, it comes to the all historical past that move to that way. But the general masses that is vastly affected by that particular policies, or we have seen during the lockdown, for instance, the kind of the sufferings people have suffered, that by foot they traveled hundreds of kilometers, and we see what kind of the pathetic environment during the second wave of the COVID. People forgot everything. Now people are more focused on the religious casteism, religion. So these are actually hindrances in the social justice when you are particularly concerned about one particular thing. Then when society as a whole, the whole ethos of the society, that that purpose is going to be defeated by that means. So I must say here, the state must uphold the dignity of the human being, and as a responsible citizens, the people should also make participation in terms of the democratic values, harmony, peace, and this respect of diversity and all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I suppose anyone else? Otherwise, I don't see anyone else. Shall we conclude then?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, we have heard each other. A lot of valid and inspiring insights came up. And I suppose they will keep echoing in our ears and take us further in our journey of promoting justice in this world. Well, just to highlight 2-3 points, very briefly. What a discouraging thing about our mission of promoting justice, social justice, is that there is systemic injustice. Systems that are supposed to provide justice, promote justice, they themselves are carried away by unjust ways, which is a matter of concern. Institutions that are supposed to stand on their feet and take care of the human concerns, they themselves are in the pockets of vested interests, which is a matter of concern with regard to social justice. Well, the corporate sector, even in the COVID times, in the last 2 years, they multiplied their assets so much. When the poor sections were struggling and many died, there the corporate sector benefited many times, several times. This is really a mystery, I think, in this world. Well, justice issue is an issue of a concern of humanity, human dignity. When justice is denied, it's a human dignity is denied. Unfortunately, a large portion of the human society, in India in particular, the human dignity is denied. Humanity is at stake. What is then humanity? When the dignity is not there, well, it is very, very important. Well, ideas and insights about justice and injustice is one thing. The practical situation, the real situations in different areas is really, heartbreaking. Well, on platforms, a lot of big ideas come. The real situation, the struggle of people, the suffering of the people is very untold. Well, I think justice is to be upheld, dignity is to be upheld, and also the special concern with regard to justice is this, that as in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals as a point, let no one be left behind. If God is a God above all, the divine power who created all this, I think he or she or it, I think, gives a fair deal by giving sunshine and rain to everyone equally. Well, leaving the divine power is anything, it is 100%. There's no 100% in this world, but at the same time, the divine power wants all the 100%. Leaving anyone behind, I think, is a violation of the divinity and the humanity at the same time. Well, the vulnerable, the weaker sections, the minorities are to be specially taken care of by way of justice, by way of the dignity of the human being, etc. Well, a lot of insights came. Thank you very much. I personally thank every one of you who took the trouble and time to join in this discussion and contributed your valuable insights and great insights. And it's my duty that I will make sure that these insights are, circulated far and wide by emails, and it is already in the YouTube, and it will contribute to inspiring people to promote justice in this world, and for ourselves also, that to make this world a little better than we found it, as Robert Powell Biden of an army officer in England says, leave this world a little better than we found it. If we can make in our own circles the world slightly better, I think that is enough reason for us to live. So I think the great power of God who created us, I think may enable us, enlighten and empower us, so that we make this country, this world, a little better than we have found it. So thank you so much for your presence, for your great insights, and for the trouble and the time you spared this evening. Thank you very much.
Thanks for inviting, sir. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Thomas.
Good night.
Thank you.